On paper, Jason Miller was doing everything right. He was 32 years old, lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, and had what people like to call a good job. Not glamorous, not exciting, but stable. He worked as a project coordinator for a regional logistics company, earning just over $62,000 a year before taxes. He had health insurance, a 401k, paid his bills on time, and every morning, parked neatly in his driveway, was his pride and joy. A metallic gray SUV with tinted windows, a glossy finish, and a monthly payment of $648. Jason loved that car. It made him feel like he'd arrived. The neighbors noticed it. His coworkers noticed it. Even his parents, who worried about him more than they admitted, seemed reassured when they saw him pull up in something modern and respectable instead of the old dented sedan he used to drive. The payment didn't feel scary. $648, that was it. Less than rent. Less than some people paid for childcare. And the dealership had explained it all so smoothly. Totally affordable, the salesman had said, smiling as he slid the paperwork across the desk. Most of our customers pay more than that. Jason didn't think of the payment as a problem. He thought of it as a symbol. What Jason didn't know, what millions of Americans don't know, is that this single line item would quietly shape the next decade of his life. It would delay his freedom, drain his options, and lock him into a financial loop that felt normal until it didn't. This is not a story about a bad decision. It's a story about a decision that feels harmless. And that's what makes it dangerous. Jason didn't wake up one day and decide to sabotage his future. The car payment slipped into his life the same way most financial traps do, slowly, politely, and dressed as progress. When his old sedan started breaking down, it felt justified. Repairs were adding up. He was tired of worrying whether it would start in winter. He was tired of feeling behind. So he went car shopping. The lot was huge, clean, and full of promise. Bright lights, balloons tied to mirrors, salespeople who greeted him like an old friend. Jason had done what he thought was research. He knew his credit score was solid, around 710. He knew interest rates were still pretty good. He had a budget in mind, but it was flexible. That flexibility is where the problem started. Instead of asking, "What's the total cost?" he asked the question most people ask, "What would the monthly payment be?" The salesman leaned back in his chair, tapped a few keys, and nodded. "We can definitely make this work for you." And just like that, the conversation stopped being about price and started being about comfort. Could Jason afford $648 a month? Yes. So nothing else felt urgent. Not the length of the loan, not the interest rate, not the fact that the car would be worth less every single month. The payment fit neatly into his budget spreadsheet. It didn't scream, it didn't threaten, it didn't feel reckless. It felt adult. And that's how the car payment became invisible. For the first year, nothing went wrong. Jason made every payment on time, sometimes early. His credit score even went up a little. Friends complimented the car. Family stopped asking if he was saving enough. The SUV smelled new, drove smooth, handled well in the snow. Everything felt aligned. But what Jason didn't see was what the payment was quietly replacing. He used to save about $400 a month without thinking too hard about it. Not aggressively, but enough that his emergency fund had been slowly growing. With the car payment, that savings dropped to almost nothing. Just temporarily, he told himself. Once I get a raise. He stopped contributing extra to his 401k. He stopped taking weekend trips. He stopped feeling like he had options, not because he was broke, but because his money was already spoken for. Every dollar had a job before it reached his bank account. And the most important job belonged to the car. The dealership never lied to Jason. They just didn't tell the whole story. The SUV sticker price was $41,800. With taxes, fees, add-ons, and an extended warranty he didn't fully understand, the total loan came out to just under $48,000. The interest rate was 6.9%. The loan term was 72 months. 72. 6 years. At $648 a month, Jason would pay over $46,600 just in payments. And that didn't include insurance, which jumped significantly, maintenance, tires, registration, asterisk fuel, repairs after the warranty expired by the time the loan ended. The total cost of owning that SUV would push past $60,000. For a vehicle that, by year 6, would be worth maybe $15,000, if he was lucky. But here's the part almost no one calculates. What that money could have become if Jason had invested that $648 a month instead. Even conservatively, the numbers would tell a very different story. At a modest 7% annual return, investing $648 a month for 6 years would grow to roughly $58,000. Instead, he was spending that amount to end up with a depreciating asset worth a fraction of what he paid. But opportunity cost is invisible. You don't feel it like a late fee or an overdraft. You don't get a warning email. You only feel it years later when someone else seems to be moving faster with less effort, and you can't figure out why. Jason didn't think about that. Most people don't. Because the pain of a car payment is dull, not sharp. 3 years into the loan, things changed. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just enough to matter. Jason's company restructured. His role stayed, but bonuses disappeared. Raises were smaller. The cost of everything else, groceries, utilities, insurance, crept upward. The car payment didn't adjust. It stayed fixed, unforgiving, due every month. At the same time, the SUV stopped feeling new. The excitement faded. Small annoyances showed up. A sensor issue. A recall notice. New tires that cost more than expected. The car was still good, but it wasn't magical anymore. Yet the payment felt heavier. Jason started carrying a balance on his credit card. Nothing extreme, just a few $100s here and there. Emergencies, convenience, life. He told himself it was temporary. It always is. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Once you're deep into a car loan, your flexibility disappears. Selling the car wasn't easy. The loan balance was higher than the car's market value. Trading it in would mean rolling negative equity into another loan, starting the cycle over, but worse. Downgrading wasn't simple. Walking away wasn't an option. The car wasn't just transportation anymore. It was a contract, a long one, and Jason was locked in. Every decision now had to work around the payment. New job. Needed to pay enough to justify the commute and insurance. Moving closer to work. Hard with savings drained. Starting a side business. Risky with fixed obligations. The car had quietly become the center of gravity in his financial life. Here's what makes this story uncomfortable. Jason wasn't irresponsible. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't trying to impress strangers. He did what millions of Americans do every year. The average new car payment in the U.S. is now well over $700 a month. Loan terms of 72 and even 84 months are common. Negative equity is normal. Rolling loans into new loans is routine. This isn't an edge case. It's the system. And the system works because the damage is slow. One night, Jason sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open and his bank app glowing on his phone. He wasn't panicking. He was tired. Tired of feeling like he earned decent money but never seemed to get ahead. Tired of planning his life around paydays. Tired of thinking about money without feeling in control of it. He scrolled back through his transaction history. $648, over and over, month after month. He added it up. 3 years of payments so far. Over $23,000. And the loan balance, still above $29,000. Jason stared at the numbers longer than he meant to. That's when the thought finally landed. I don't own this car. It owns me. This story isn't about never buying a car. It's not about driving junk forever or shaming people for wanting something nice. It's about understanding the true cost of a decision that feels normal. Because the most dangerous financial mistakes don't feel like mistakes at all. They feel reasonable. They feel earned. They feel safe. Until one day you realize the future you imagined has been quietly postponed, one monthly payment at a time, and Jason is just getting started. Because what happens next isn't about the car. It's about what the car prevented him from becoming.